Hello, everyone, once again, and we are very happy and excited to have Ievgeniia Dulko with us today. She will be giving a talk about Ukrainian post-war urban agenda. And Ievgeniia is an expert in urban planning, both from like the theory and the practical perspective, I can say. She's currently doing her urban planning master's degree at the University of Illinois in Chicago. And she's also working as an expert in Urbnanyna, which is a project, which is maybe Ievgeniia will actually tell you a bit more about
I can tell you,
because it sounds really exciting, but I have not that much information on it. But I think it will be a very exciting opportunity to actually see what the urban planner is doing and how they can take part in the restoration of Ukraine, because Urbnanyna is located in Ukraine. So Ievgeniia, the floor is yours, and yeah.
Hi to everyone. As already was said, my name is Ievgeniia, but you can call me Zhenya. This is a Ukrainian name which has two options, and Zhenya is easier, especially for not Ukrainian speakers. Yes, I'm an urbanist. I'm also an urban manager with background working with many Ukrainian cities such as Mykolaiv, Kharkiv, a few Kyiv, Irpin, and a few others. But now, since 2021, I moved to Chicago and I live here and study urban planning. Basically, now in this lecture and now common thoughts would be from my perspective as a researcher now, because I'm doing my thesis about rebuilding Ukraine, and mostly things that I want to share with you today are the results of my research and my insights about what is happening, being not now being not an insider of the process, because I'm outside of Ukraine since war started. So basically, I'm mostly observer from outside, but also being attached to the field for many years, I have trying to collect this knowledge and synthesize it and just basically do some, share some ideas. And briefly, what is waiting for us today? So I hope to be done in 50 minutes, 1 hour, and then we have a QA, and then we have a discussion. I want to talk today a bit about urban planning challenges in Ukraine, to understand what was before the war, to know the context and be on the same page, to discuss actors of the rebuilding process, which you can call them stakeholders, actors, people, institutions, organizations, whatever. I prefer to call them actors. Then I will share with you the rebuilding narratives, which I constructed out of my research, and we have time for questions afterwards. So if you have questions during my lecture, I probably won't be able to stop. I just won't be so comfy, but you can put it on the chat, and I can come back to it just after the lecture would be done. Okay, give me a second for some housekeeping things. And so the big question here to start with is there urban planning in Ukraine? And it seems like an easy question, and the answer is obvious. Yes, sure, because Ukraine is a European country. We have cities. We definitely work with urban development and so on and so forth. But at the same time, we have a unique situation with urban planning in Ukraine, where city building, as we call it, and city building doctrine, містобудування in Ukrainian, is not actually the same which we understand in Western world, especially what understand our European and American allies understand as urban planning. So city building and architecture basically the topics, the knowledge spheres which are considered to be the spatial expert in Ukraine. And from my perspective, and not only mine, it's actually not equal to spatial and urban planning, which is a sphere of knowledge that separated itself from architecture probably already more than 100 years ago, starting from the beginning of 20th century. So it's not about words, yeah, it's about values. It's not, it doesn't matter. We can continue call city building in Ukraine, not coming to urban or spatial planning, but it's more about values. Because city building in city building is a Soviet spatial planning legacy, yeah, and it's important to understand that it came to us from different era, from different background, and from different values, which are a top-down approach, because city building in Soviet times was centralized, yeah, and decisions were made in the center and then was like spread to the periphery. It was centralized in terms of the attention was put in few different like centers according to economical goals, mostly, then according to like needs of populations or needs of like a sustainable approach or something else. And also it is the values and the like concept of city building, which is like building something new, yeah, from scratch, is a bit outdated in general, because we don't have, we need to doubt, we need to question from very beginning, should we actually build anything new before doing this in the era of climate change and all the circumstances after this huge and not controlled urban growth and development through the last century. Nevertheless, there is a shift to spatial planning in Ukraine, which is happening already for some time. Yeah, it's not still. It's a process, not an achieved goal, an achieved like result. So I doubtably it can be called that it started roughly in 2014 with the decentralization reform in Ukraine, with the help of European colleagues, especially Germany and KhTZ. They are like government cooperation organization. We are as Ukraine in the process of changing our territorial organization and structure, and the main idea is to establish hromadas instead of oblast or regions that were before. So hromadas now is the main entity. Yes, they're like the main local entity, which considered to be like a self-government institution, self-governed institution, sorry, and decentralization supposed to have to put more power, more responsibility, and more resources to hromadas itself. So we basically have hromadas and cities now as main like planning entities, yeah, and main like structural entities in the territorial system of Ukraine. And I want to remind that it's happening still. Yeah, we have like more than 1,300 hromadas in 2022, yeah, before the war started, and it's basically almost covering all territory of Ukraine, but it's still like the process. Yeah, and the big achievement of the shift to spatial planning in Ukraine actually happened in 2020 when the law about city building and activities regulation про містобудування в Україні was edited, and two tools were added to this law, which is a special development plan for Hromada and integrated concept for Hromadas and cities as well. So basically, we finally, as a country, on the all levels, introduced contemporary spatial development tools and like tools that can be used to work with territories from the approach of spatial planning or urban planning, whatever you like to call it. And it's important to say that spatial and urban planning, considered from the Western perspective, considered to be as multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary field, which is working with community, with bottom-up approach, with finding compromises, building dialogue, and basically mobilize. Yeah, some researchers call urban planners as social mobilizers of our urban development process. Second. Yeah, just a few seconds, I want to stop and to notice that from my perspective and doing like a bit of history research, yeah, of like how urban planning, spatial planning and territorial planning was developed in independent Ukraine, I do want to stop on the role of German approach, which is integrated urban development in Ukrainian urban planning establishment, let's say. So this is a big deal, and it's probably like, I don't want to judge is it good or bad approach. It's mostly like I want to say that it is probably the most influential approach, which now Ukrainian cities probably more or less sharing, and national legislation also adopted these approaches. So the project itself, which had to do something with cities, the first one started in 2009 in Lviv, and then only like after almost 10 years, it spread around whole Ukraine and included Vinnytsia, Zhytomyr, Poltava, and Chernivtsi in 2018 to start and to motivate and to support for them to develop their first integrated concepts for urban development, dealing with 10 years approach, like Vinnytsia 2030, Zhytomyr 2030, and so on. Yeah, so basically it's a strategic document which the city develops through 3 years, adopting integrated approach to the urban development. And it's important to say what is integrated urban development approach. Yeah, it was formally, or it was like initiated by Germany and was like assembled in Leipzig Charter in 2007, and the new version of it. And basically, this is how whole Europe now, at least we consider that the whole Europe now see its urban development process and the role of the cities in this process. So this new Leipzig Charter was signed in 2020. It's not official document. It's signed like voluntarily by ministers of relevant fields, yeah, like urban planning fields of each of 28 countries. It's mostly a guideline, yeah, but it's a document which is talking about how Europe and European Union see its future with cities, and how to strengthen the role of the city, or role of cities in general in general, like development of European Union and general spatial development on this territory. And basically it was renewed, yeah, as a document because of new challenges. We can understand from 2007 to 2020, it's like a lot of time. It was a new urban agenda introduced by UN. It was a lot of new challenges, yeah, we see now as climate change and socio-economical dynamics. And the main idea of this new Leipzig Charter is that it strengthens crisis resilience and local authority to act. So basically, they put a lot of attention and saying that cities are the engine of European development, yeah, and spatial development as well. So this was like a bit of talking about the context and understanding of what powers, yeah, and what like streams impacting Ukraine through last, let's say, decade to develop this understanding of what is urban planning, what is spatial planning, and what is not our like urban agenda of Ukraine in general, yeah. And to sum up this chapter, I want to just briefly say about few main challenges that urban planning that I personally observed as an urban planner and activist and manager from Ukraine. Yeah, and we like this is a context before the war started in 2022. So basically, I've talked a bit more about our data system of city building, yeah, which is still a legacy and still there, and legislation is there, and we still deal with this. We do have this decentralization reform, and it helped a lot to strengthen the local administration capacity, but at the same time, especially local administrations of these hromadas, especially when they're not connected to bigger settlements, yeah, their capacity of development and working by themselves without external help is quite low. Also, I would say that the professional community in Ukraine, professional community in broad sense, yeah, architects, planners, designers, I call them design professionals in general, it's a bit disintegrated and not so united, probably was not so united before the war. We'll see the process is changing, but at the same time, yeah, it's like there is a national union, architecture union, yeah, but it's also not representing all the architects, especially new generation. There is no any professional organization of planners, yeah, because we talked that planners are still not a profession. Actually, there is no such profession as urban planner in Ukraine still. Also, the other challenge is emerging strategic spatial planning as a like at the process, but also which is like disturbing process of the status quo, and it means that we do feel this, you know, conflict between like progressive part of people who wanted to establish this spatial planning agenda and who still don't understand why you just doing this, because it's already like city building is okay. And the last from my perspective is it's a lack of planning education, which is basically there is no official urban planning education in Ukraine. There are some shifts in it, and with the help of different research institutions or informal organizations, yeah, non-profits, we step by step trying to introduce this knowledge to Ukraine. But I would say that for now, before the war, this education was not developed still. And the war came, and the war came like dramatically drastic, unbelievable destructions. This I here have a screenshot of losses of Ukrainians' economy on the 1st of August, yeah, which we understand that changed a lot since the time already. We all know how some cities were impacted, and this is something that we still probably comprehending, all of us, as Ukrainians and all the world, and all of us as professionals, who probably have never seen such level of destruction. So it's just like Kharkiv, Mariupol, Mykolaiv, all the cities which are like building this front line and found themselves on the front line, not being prepared for this. And here I want to stop like a bit the historical, like my presentation, just to introduce few important terms which probably you need to understand when we work with spatial development and rebuilding after post-war rebuilding. Because there is two terms, which is urbicide and ecocide. We do understand that they came from genocide as like as a destruction process, from different perspectives, let's say. It's also mostly common for academia terms, but still it's interesting and important to understand why things are happening, and why these destructions are happening, and how then to work with them. So just briefly, that urbicide, in most general broad terms, which we don't have one term, and one definition, but is a destructive phenomena which reflects the physical destruction of the whole of the part of the city, and it's intentional destruction. But it's also, urbicide is not only about war. Urbicide is also about social factors. Urbicide, it was like urban renewal in the US in 1960s. And probably many researchers and scholars saying that basically this term appeared here in the US to describe what was happening with cities at that time, but it definitely was coined during the recent wars and conflict in Europe, starting from Balkanian wars and the siege of Sarajevo, and all this recent history, like brought this term to describe why urban and built environment is destroyed intentionally during the war, and how it's impacting the result of the war, basically. At the same time, I do want to emphasize that urbicide is still not considered as a war crime in these terms, as genocide is considered to be the war crime. There are like a lot of discussion about it, and how we should put it there, but it's still not. And because it's like that's still sometimes considered to be as a like side product of the war, like inevitability. But it's actually probably not in our case. It's like intentional destruction. And ecocide, it's like it's a new also term. And I do I just recently read that a lot of international experts and groups now working actually to put this term as a crime, as an international crime, because ecocide is also not only about the war, but in our context, it's like in general, it's intentional destruction of ecosystems in the country, so it could be made by industry or whatever, but ecocide is unlawful or wanton act committed with knowledge that there is a substantial likelihood of severe and either widespread or long-term damage to the environmental being caused by those acts. Again, we're talking about intentional destruction of cities, of built environment, and intentional destructions of natural environment and natural systems as a result of the war and as a tool of the war. So our cities in Ukraine, all this bombardment and destructions, they are not the side project, side product, of the war and wartime in general. It's a tool. It's another tool as all these weapons both sides use. But let's come to the rebuilding of Ukraine and what was happening through this year, because this is basically my point of interest for now. And I was trying to collect all the initiatives, everything which was happening through this year to understand what tendencies are there, what patterns are there, and how we can make this process more efficient and more like, I don't want to use this efficient, yeah, but how it can be improved, let's say like this, yeah. And I do want to share this like insight based on set of interviews, around 15 interviews or maybe more, with insiders of the process, yeah, with people who working with rebuilding of Ukrainian cities. Probably majority of them answering my question when they start to think about rebuilding initiative, they answer that it happened just almost immediately, yeah. And it means that rebuilding process starting immediately after the war started. And this is not only a Ukrainian case, yeah. If you will look at many cases which are now discussed in terms of like how we should use it or not in Ukraine, Sarajevo, Beirut, post-war, post-Second World War, European cities, yeah, almost everywhere the reconstruction and rebuilding process started immediately. The same is in Ukraine, but I do want to here introduce another term question or terms problem, yeah, and general terminology problem, because we do have this set of words, and we do refer to one problem or one challenge when we use both of them, yeah, rebuilding, renovation, restoration, reconstruction. Is it enough now to describe what people think about when they use these words or not? It's a big question, and I do know that many different communities and coalitions, yeah, try to solve this issues, try to think, is it enough to say rebuilding? Will it be the best explanation of what we actually want to do in Ukraine or not? But just to make it easier today, you will hear from me since now these 4 or even more terms as a synonyms. Yeah, I don't want to now create a new term. Yeah, but basically, I don't mean saying when I say rebuilding that we need to rebuild basically what it was, but I'm using this word mostly because this is how scholars and how people in general use it now as a common word for this field, let's say, yeah, or field of questions. And basically, as I said, my interest and my focus of interest was on understanding what is happening, and to understand what is happening from my perspective, it's easier and more and logical to start from who is there, yeah, and to make this structure, to make this typology, I analyzed all the main initiatives through the year from different scales and institutions, and also but only those initiatives and projects and programs which were connected to spatial development, yeah. And in general, we today talking about spatial development. I should probably say it a bit earlier, but post-war reconstruction is the complicated process, is a complicated and long-term process, which is multi-layered, and mostly it's about economical, social, cultural, and spatial development of nation post-war. So here in this lecture, in this section of the program in general, yeah, we always refer to spatial development or in the post-war reconstruction, because we definitely have, with a big respect for others, for economy, for culture, yeah, and for working with people and their trauma and psychological trauma of a whole nation, we just don't put it here to just make it a bit more clear as a picture, yeah. So coming back to who is working with spatial agenda of rebuilding Ukrainian cities, I suggest to put them in 3 big groups, and each group has few other subgroups. Yeah, basically 3 main groups. We see official institutions, national official institutions, independent actors, and international actors. And when we talk about official national institutions, I distinguish here 2 groups: national government and local administrations. We do have another level, another like a stakeholder, which is regional administration, which is actually will be like faded a bit in the new decentralization reform, but they are still there. But they are now not independent stakeholders, mostly like connected to national government. That's why their normal typology should be 3 groups, but I reduce it to 2. So independent actors, there are a lot of people, and mostly independent actors, I call them independent because it was not their obligations, contrary to official institutions, yeah, who like officially are the part of territorial planning system of Ukraine. Independent actors were like, it was their will to start working with rebuilding initiatives and to start thinking about rebuilding Ukraine. Yeah, that's why they're independent. So in this group, I set like 3 subgroups, and first is professional groups and funds. It's academia as like broad sector of state and private institutions, nonprofits, and so on, connected with education or research. And also third group is grassroots and business initiatives. And the third big type is international actors. And there are 2 subtypes: is official institutions there as UN, as national governments of different European and American countries, and also independent actors as separate architects or companies or foundations which are coming directly to Ukraine to help to work with Ukraine. So yeah, basically this, I can give you a few examples. Like national government, we do now have the president office as one of the main stakeholders of the rebuilding process. We do have our ministry. We do have a vice prime minister of rebuilding Ukraine, which was like just recently in December announced. We do have a national agency for rebuilding Ukraine, which was also just recently announced as the main stakeholder of this process. Yeah, so there are a lot of national government actors who are now playing role and what they do, and like they do a lot. Local administrations, we all know the cities, especially most impacted cities, who trying to attract attention from everyone just to say like, we have a problem, help us. Yeah, and probably from my perspective, local administrations could be like one of the main actors in the rebuilding process, but for now they are there, but still like I don't give you any prioritization of actors here. It's just trying to describe the general situation. Professional groups, it's just all these coalitions of professionals, like spatial design professionals, yeah, who try to help, try to rethink, try to involve international experience. This is like Rebuild Ukraine, this is Roskrit Coalition, and few more, and like Fond Відродження in Ukraine, which is like they try to work a lot with rebuilding challenges. Academia is Center for Urban History in Lviv, Kharkiv School of Architecture, Kyiv School of Economy, and so on and so forth. So some set of institutions. Grassroots and business initiatives. One of the good examples are KhTZ, the project in Ivano-Frankivsk by nonprofit Mykolaiv, which is now doing this renovation of housing for IDPs, business initiatives from Balbec Bureau, from Drozdova and Partners Bureau about different designs of also housing. Yeah, mostly like a big challenge for architects now is housing for temporary displaced people, and probably not always temporary already displaced. Yeah, a lot of people just literally lost their their home, yeah, and it means that we need to settle them in some new way, yeah. And yeah, and I also already talked about international actors a bit. Okay, so, and finally, coming to the end of this section, is my idea, and maybe my main idea, what I want to share with you today, and that my main insight and probably like research question about my thesis is the role of design professionals in the rebuilding Ukraine. And my personal approach is that this goal, or this role is essential, and this role is important. And this role of design professionals in Ukraine is still not defined yet, and we are in the process of defining it. Yeah, and this means that we can still work on understanding where they are now in the whole system, in all this big, complicated process of rebuilding, and where they actually want to be as a result of some actions. Yeah, and as a result of like analysis of all these interviews, interpretation of them, yeah, analysis of database of initiatives, and all this like semantic analysis of many resources, I came up with 6 roles, which are now like the main for design professionals in Ukraine in the current process of rebuilding during the last year. It's a bit speculative tool. It's a intellectual. It's like the tool. This typology is a tool itself. Yeah, to think and to talk about the role of our professionals, but it's also showing some tendencies already. So there are 6 roles. And these roles are visionaries, producers, activists, educators, advisors, and warriors. Basically, visionaries, they are people who try to rethink the approach of how urban planning, of how cities should develop, how cities in Ukraine should, like, what future is there, but change the status quo. Yeah, and war is an opportunity to change this. Actually, producers, they are more managers. They are more people who respond to a specific problem, because we do understand nobody can deal with the war crisis by themselves. Yeah, we don't expect city administrations to deal with it by themselves. Yeah, the whole community, the whole nation is involved. So these producers create projects, very specific ones with specific goals and specific outcomes to solve challenges. Yeah, IDPs or current renovation of housing where you can do it with your hands, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so many initiatives with specific goals and where you can use your professional skill as architect or planner just to help here and now. Activist is a like floating role. Yeah, and maybe in general I should say that all these roles are floating. They're changeable, interchangeable. They can't whatever you are in the process of rebuilding, if you are there on the scene, you probably change in these roles according to the situation. Yeah, but at the same time, some people mostly playing some roles more often than others. And coming back to activists, yeah, the main goal of them is to raise awareness around Ukrainian public, and not only Ukrainian, or sometimes international public, and like trying to motivate to change something. Yes, through basically approaching as many people as possible. Yeah, trying to say that something is going wrong, but we do need to stop, change, understand, let's talk. This is probably the patterns which you observe talking about role of activists, about design professionals as activists, yeah, in the process. Next row is educators. We are all here. Educators is probably the most fluctuating role, yeah, interchangeable role, because it's quite important for professionals and practitioners to come and to share their knowledge, yeah. And it's also important because of the challenges that I was talking previously, challenges of urban planning in Ukraine in general. Yeah, we do need to educate our decision makers. We do need to educate our community. We do need to educate our professional community, yes, still about what is happening in the field and how we can answer many challenges and try to talk about it together. Yeah, so the other role is advisors. So they are mostly people who embedded already in the decision-making process and systems, and their role is not to be activists there, yeah, but to find dialogue and to find compromise and to relate our wishes and our ideas and approaches to actually what we can do in the specific situation, the specific city or community. And the last one are warriors. These basically are people from our professional community in Ukraine who temporarily left the profession and decided to go and fight for Ukraine and protect Ukraine. And even though they are not now, let's say, the part of rebuilding process, yeah, because they do their part, they do like a huge important work now, like being soldiers on the war field, they are still stakeholders and they have their role as the people who will come back, and they will also like make different perspective, probably will have a different perspective of on the rebuilding Ukraine. Yeah, and this is probably everything about who, answering the question who are there. And now I'm coming to the final part of the presentation where I actually want to share with you these big narratives of rebuilding Ukraine and what is happening there, and how I try to construct it and how I try to reflect on it. So it's also very important to notice and to say now that narratives is a subjective thing. Yeah, we always people create stories each day. We use it as a tool of our mind, of our how we communicate in general. So that's why in humanities, in social sciences, human sciences, it's also defined from many perspectives. Yeah, it's like stories told by people with whom I talked. This is my own stories because I'm in the position of researcher, investigator. And this is even your interpretations of what I will tell you. So this is very speculative tool to analyze, very floating one. Yeah, there are not, these narratives are not solid. They are happening here and now or in some timeline, but they can change because we are all in the situation. This is also the second important thing to notice here, that we are in the situation where the war is still happening, where we are in the situation where we as design professionals can't have long-term goals because we still don't know what it will happen tomorrow, literally. And the third uncertainty of the situation brings the analysis of rebuilding Ukraine and the process of rebuilding Ukraine in the situation where we still don't know who is there. We still don't know all the actors, comparing to all these cases of Sarajevo or Beirut or like especially post-war European cities, yeah, where we analyze it from the perspective of nowadays and looking into the past. But now we are all insiders of the process of ongoing war. And this analysis is basically, its main goal is to start the dialogue and to start the conversation, but not to put some solid ideas on the table and said, this is it. So this is was a preface for it. I would start with probably 5 meta-narratives. Sorry for this postmodern terminology, but I think this is more or less can be described as meta-narrative in general, yeah, because these 5 narratives which I observed from very beginning, they are crucial. At some point they are essential, yeah, for many different spheres, fields, and in general social interactions of people. But we are here in the understanding of rebuilding process of Ukraine, and the first one meta-narrative which I want to share is centralization versus decentralization. Yeah, and some narratives which I will present here, they will be a competing one, almost contradictory one, but it's not always like this. Not always easy like this, yeah. Sometimes they are overlapping in many ways, and it's not actually a conflict itself still. So it's you need to understand that there's nothing is solid, yeah. And this is probably the main difficulty, yeah, in understanding the process now. So centralization of reconstruction is the main actor who is pushing this narrative is national government, and this is very logical because during the war we do understand this is natural that systems are centralized, because we do need somebody to be in charge of protect us. We do need national government to play a bigger role. This is okay, but at the same time it's okay to some extent. We can't the people, the actors in the design professionals especially feel that this level of centralization is going further than they want it to go, yeah, and that sometimes it's erasing positive results of the centralization reform in Ukraine, which is a big threat for now. But at the same time, we still understand that this is changing, and maybe government is still looking for its own story. Yeah, it's still looking to how to solve the problem, because nobody was there ready for it. Nobody knows how to do it right. That's why it's probably still a conflict, a competing narrative, but it's still competing narratives, but it's still not still defined. The other meta narrative is rapid reconstruction versus rethinking and building forward. We do understand why national government together with local administrations have a narrative of let's do everything fast, because they, especially local administration, they want to solve their problem. People coming to them to say that we don't have where to live. Yeah, people, the local administrations, each day, each hour, basically, they're dealing with all these personal tragedies, yeah, and all this communal problems, yeah, and that's why they do need time. For them means a lot. Yeah, and when we were looking at Irpin in April, yeah, after the occupation of Kyiv Oblast, we do understand that people can live without their apartments during summer somehow, but they need some more decent housing in the fall, yeah, because the freezing temperatures are coming. So anyway, time is essential for everyone, for any actor, sure, but for national government and for local administrations, we can observe this rapid reconstruction as a narrative which they try to force, still maybe not understanding enough that time sometimes it's not necessary sometimes to do so fast, which are many other actors, especially independent actors, trying to introduce, all the coalitions, discussions, the conferences, and so on. Many thoughts there are connected. Let's stop and think. We still have maybe a bit of time. Let's rethink before we will act. Sorry, I think I missed something. Introduction, repeat. Here, a third one is interesting and very connected to our context, about international experience and role of the international expertise in the rebuilding process of Ukraine. There are arguably two main narratives which I can observe now. It's like prioritizing international aid and experience versus decolonization and self-identification of the field, of the professional field, or in general of Ukraine as a nation, and trying to deal with its own challenges, with its own knowledge, and to develop this knowledge, and to develop this these innovations. For me, these two narratives, these two competing narratives for me are maybe the most overlapping ones, because it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Many professionals, especially design professionals in Ukraine now, are trying to cooperate with the international community and trying to be there. We can talk, actually, I will talk about more a bit in the end, but at the same time, we do feel that local administrations, especially of some cities, they want international experts to be the dominant voice, in the process, for many reasons why. And some of them are very legible, for example, to involve more resources, to introduce something new, because these people can come and work for free and do a lot of important things. For example, the most big case was Norman Foster Foundation working with Kharkiv City Administration, Milan-based One Works design office working with Mykolaiv, some independent architects from all over the Europe and in general West coming to Irpin and Bucha and many other cities to suggest their master plans or ideas or monuments or whatever. So this is happening. The narrative of colonization from West versus colonization from East is also there in the professional discourse. And I don't want to stop a lot on it, but we can talk about more afterwards. It's still not what I can tell from my experience and from my research, that professional field of designers, planners, architects in Ukraine, they don't have a specific understanding. Is it bad or good? I think that it's still a lot of questions in this narrative, in this meta narrative. And a few others ones is erasing war and build from scratch versus trauma healing, which is not clear, and this is not solid a lot, but I do feel that there exist, and it's understandable why, because some people don't want to remember about war, because it's a lot of it's a very traumatic experience for them, so they do force let's start from blank, from like white, from the beginning. Let's start like from nothing and build again. But others, especially many people who work with cities professionally, understand that it won't work like this. And we do need to rethink trauma, of collective trauma, through built environment as well. And the last meta narrative here is interesting observation that cities in Ukraine now dealing with a lot of challenges, but at the same time they are competing already for scarce resources and for people. Yeah, because a lot of people left, especially cities around the front line. Yeah, and we do understand that now it's a new resource for cities where these people moved. So at the same time, many mayors, when you listen to them on the conferences, they do talk about mutual cooperations. They do talk about like basically this, services teams from different cities were coming to Mykolaiv to help with infrastructure problems, yeah, and to like deal with water supply or to like anyway. So it was like a lot of activities which each city was trying to help each other between themselves without coming to national level. Yeah, and this like peer-to-peer exchange of knowledge and specific problem solving is also there. Yeah, so it's interesting meta-narrative. It was always there, by the way. Yes, cities competition is a big interesting topic where we can talk another hour about it. Yeah, but at the same time, in the wartime, it's also like showing itself from two different sides. And finally, as a trying to like sum up what we were talking here, I came because the focus of my research and interest are the role of design professionals in the rebuilding process. And basically here, based on all the research and all the information I synthesized, I developed 6 narratives which are there in the design professional field in Ukraine, and probably there are more, but this is the 6 which I want to share. And they are rethinking approaches, self-identification, new social agreement, planning and architecture decolonization, embrace decentralization, and sustainable reconstruction. And just very briefly, I will talk about each of it. So when we talk about narrative of rethinking approaches, we were talking about visionaries' roles of design professionals, but it's not only about new visions. It's about, in general, value or priority of changing things and rethink things. If the war already here, it was not in our control. It came without asking. But if it's already came, this is a situation where we can change a lot of things and we can adjust them. We can stop doing outdated planning and shift fast to spatial and territorial and urban planning. Self-identification through international cooperation, this is what I was talking about, the role of international community in the rebuilding process of Ukraine. What I can see from that field is rather not trying to make international experts like some enemies and colonizers, but more trying to cooperate as equal. And all these coalitions, especially Roskvit coalition, they do try to combine international experience and Ukrainian experience and expertise to make something new. Yeah, and this works well, by the way. And I do feel that this is an interesting narrative that the field in general having, trying to cooperate, not to ask to come and solve our problem, but to be like on the one page, use their experience, but always with adaptation to the local context in Ukraine. New social agreement is actually also another big topic. We can talk about what it is, but in general, it's like the society, not only professional community, but the society in general, I feel that this is the time when we can rethink this. This is the time when we can say that we as a community, we as a city, we as Hromada, we do take our role in the national building, in the spatial development of the country as well. Yeah, and we do know how to do it, so let's do it together, or something like this. It's very brief description, but this is from how I feel from my analysis. Yeah, and it's not meant to be like someone's of actors' goal for now, but it is there. between the lines, let's say. Planning architecture decolonization. This is basically mostly decolonization from Russia influence, and from all this several hundred years of active colonization of Ukraine. So we do have a lot of in common in planning and territorial system with Russia still. And this is very, this is sad and strange, but it's happening still. So I do think that I do feel that and see the professional field trying to push this out as much as possible. It's not still happening, but I do feel this is probably the narrative which would be there for some years to achieve a specific goal, basically to get rid of Soviet past, especially in spatial planning and strategic planning of Ukrainian cities. Embrace decentralization. We were talking about it in the very beginning of a meta narrative, centralization versus decentralization. Here, I would say that professional field in Ukraine for now, what I observe, they do embrace decentralization, but mostly in the understanding of the crucial role of local administrations and the stakeholders of the rebuilding Ukraine. And it means that they're not against making the national agency for rebuilding Ukraine. It's mostly about let's try to find a balance of decision making on the different level. And finally, the last one, which is also important now. So all these narratives are not in priority yet, they're just the same equal, is sustainable reconstruction, healing urbicide and ecocide, the thing that we were talking before. So we do understand that even in the very, the biggest crisis of our nation as a war, we still are as Ukraine, we are in the context of the world, and world is in the context of the climate change. And it means that no matter what we will do and how we will develop, at some point, we still will come to the same challenges dealing with climate change, results of climate change and all this uncontrolled growth, urban growth in the world. So it's better to do it's better to deal and to tackle these challenges from the very beginning if we already have this opportunity to start something, to rethink something, and to change approaches. So basically, this is the narrative which is there in the professional community. This narrative is supported by already some projects as laboratory for local materials, and a lot of organizations which are working with understanding what are the results of ecocide in Ukraine and how on the national level and on the local level to deal with this, about working with policy briefs and so on and so forth. So it is there. At the same time, I do want to notice that probably putting on the scale the survival and sustainable development, we're still now here in Ukraine talking about survival more than sustainable development. And so this should be always balanced, and any narrative, any project, any story should be in the context of the Ukraine, where some people are really struggling to survive, and even now. So basically, putting everything already to the final conclusions. My main goal of today was to introduce you briefly what is happening in how the rebuilding process in Ukraine looks like now, and how who is there, and what are main patterns and the main narratives, as we call it, are there today. But I want to remind you, everything is changing. We still don't know what is happening, but what we do know that the role of professionals, of design professionals in the rebuilding process is crucial, and especially will be crucial and very important for Ukrainian rebuilding process, and how our cities will look like post-war. it actually depends on us a lot, and how we will define our roles as professionals, and how we will define our cities, and what values we will put on the base to rethink our future is actually important and will impact our future directly. This is all. Thank you. This is what I want to share with you. And basically, this is now I want to open the floor for our questions.
Thank you so much, Ksenia, for the presentation. I think that was really, at least I got really inspired and I learned a lot during the presentation. So yeah, we're very happy that actually you had the chance to share your research insights with us. And I think it was also really relevant for especially, you know, the notion of healing and like healing Ukraine, not only cities, but maybe you can also make it more general about the healing process. So yeah, I would like to open the floor for the questions, and I can see the raised hand of Josh. So yeah.
Hi, Xenia. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
I've literally got like pages and pages of notes. So yeah, it was really great. You kind of answered it a little bit just at the end of your presentation, but you mentioned the term like speculation a lot and speculative. And I wanted to really ask you, what is the role of speculation when we're confronted with such like cold horror and actual concrete need? So I'd really love to hear your opinion on that.
Thank you for the question. It's a good question to answer from the very beginning. From my perspective, when I use the word speculation, I do mean that first, all what I'm saying is not solid. Everything is very changeable, interchangeable, and we still don't know what is happening for 100% because it's still happening each minute. So when we are coming to these more classical analytical tools, I feel that they are not enough in the situation we are now. That's why we try to construct on the way while the train is moving. We try to construct other tools which will help us to understand the situation, because we still do need to understand what is happening to plan any future. So basically, when I say speculative analysis or speculative tools, this is the constructive emerged tool, which is probably not always repeatable in the other situation, but is relevant to the Ukrainian case.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's the answer. I was just very interested because it's like I remember there was like a critique of speculative design a while ago, where designers were answering essentially problems which were real world problems of people in developing countries, and they were treating it as if it was speculation. And then people were really pissed off because like, this is our reality, you know, it's your fantasy essentially. So I was very interested in, and what you just said is really, really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have some more questions or comments? Oh yeah, Anton.
First of all, thank you, Xenia, for your presentation. And honestly, as for me, it was hard to formalize one current or two current questions, because today I received a lot of new knowledge, which really new for me. But I can say that before our meeting, I was convinced that like our main problem after war is that we haven't got plan to develop, and it's really bad for me. And also now I realize that also we haven't got experts and specialists who can do it in Ukraine, because a lot of young people and a lot of specialist experts are now in other countries, and our task is develop opportunities for these people. And by the way, what it can be the opportunities for these people, how we can engage them to involve and be participant in developing Ukraine. What should we do?
Thank you for the question. It's a good question, yeah. And in the end of the presentation, I was trying to describe this current roles of all this broad group of design professionals. Yeah, when I refer to this community, it's so many people are there. And we do need to understand that when I was talking about that we have challenges with urban planning in Ukraine, and we probably arguably even don't have urban planning in the like Western understanding in Ukraine, and we don't have planners as professional for sure. This is like unfortunately the fact. It doesn't mean that there are no planners, yeah, because people evolved their skills from architecture, from geography, from sociology, from whatever they came, they evolved themselves to become planners because social mobilizers are needed everywhere, yeah, because of the current urban situation in the world, not only in Ukraine. But at the same time, you're asking about the role, how to involve people who are more or less already in the group, yeah, how they could be involved in the rebuilding process, if I understand right. So I do feel that there are a few ways, at least, and one of them is to join already existing projects. And I can share with the group then afterwards my big database of all the initiatives which are there. From my perspective, it's not all, but still like mostly the most visible one, which are there in Ukraine already. Projects, initiatives, non-profits, governmental initiatives, institutions, new institutions, personal ideas, yeah, and personal projects by like some architect or designer, whatever. So I do feel that first way is to join already existing one. The second way is to initiate by yourself, yeah, especially starting with the local level. It's very important to work with the cities and the territories where you are from, especially if you still live there or plan to live there, or you have some connection to them, because it's we do normally talk about big cities in Ukraine. And I'm from big city, yeah, I'm from Mykolaiv. I used to live in Kharkiv, I used to live in Kyiv. It's big cities and they do like examples mostly, but majority of people in Ukraine live in smaller cities and like medium and small cities. And what to do with these cities is always a big question, and we do need to embrace their development more than big cities development in Ukraine, because specifically and historically, small and medium cities in Ukraine were underprivileged, let's say. So basically, answering like fast your question is like join initiatives which are there, initiate yourself some project, or small or big one, find like friends to do it in the place where you feel attached personally. And the third way is probably also like research and observation, which is also important and relevant, and like being like observer and critique and have like a normal good critique is a role. So
okay, thanks for that. Are there any more questions coming? Don't be shy. Every input is valuable. So also like some general comments are welcome.
I also, sorry, I don't raise my hand.
Go for it. Yeah.
And I also want to ask, because I think in the future we will have a big developing way, and in this way, as for me, it's important to have examples. And Zhenya, as for you, which countries can be examples for Ukraine? Yes.
Thank you for this question. It's relevant, it's important, and I do agree. I wish we have more examples, yeah. But at the same time, I want to start my answer here from like small, like how to say it, like a thing that we need always to keep in mind, that any example, unfortunately, is not 100% relevant to Ukraine. Yeah, because we for good or for bad, we are in a unique situation. And at the same time, we do understand the war in Ukraine is not the first and not the last, and conflicts around Europe and like more or less Europe, like territory around even Ukraine, were happening through the last 30 years already. So I'm not an expert in post-war reconstruction in terms of like history of it, yeah, and that's why I won't give a lot of good examples by myself. From what I probably learned through my research, I can say that maybe we even don't need to look specifically in the post-war reconstruction to find some interesting examples. Yeah, the recent one, for example, which I heard, was an example of Singapore and its development as the very different case, very different situation, very different context. Yeah, it's like 500,000 people. Like 5 million people in total. But at the same time, and it's this island. But at the same time, they were like trying to develop themselves opposite to Malaysia and to like big, huge stakeholder of their development. Yeah, and trying to be the best in some fields just to show that they are like good partner for the rest of the world, to be protected from the big brother which is watching you there. Yeah, so this is like very not post-war story, yeah, but still interesting example. If to talk about specifically post-war, I think that many scholars in Ukraine, which I learned and talked, and they are doing this publicly on their events, they talk about mostly like concerns of post-war development experience from recent years. Yeah, so maybe we can start from examples that we don't want to have in Ukraine. Yeah, and this is also important. And for example, we don't want to have Beirut experience in Ukraine. This is like, for example, my personal idea, that personal judgment, that when the situation where they put a lot of all the resources and effort to revitalize the city center through like serving basically the capital, the idea of like economic development, rather than working with communities in the city, yeah, and like trying to solve like trying to work with traumatic experience in general, especially in the conflict where ethnicity is involved, yeah, which is like a specific different like case. So yeah, maybe we do need to learn more experiences, not only from post-war cases, but from cases which are relevant to Ukrainian context in geopolitical situation.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we have questions.
And we have Kirill next. Kirill, are you there?
Oh, yes, I'm here. I actually have a little, not the best internet connection in here. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Quite well.
Oh, that's good. First, sorry, I haven't been on the main at the presentation. I didn't have a chance to connect, but that's why my question may be a little silly. But when I imagine rebuilding the city, I always imagine something big and something massive. But as for me, as a person who's from Kharkiv myself, I can say that our mayor, who is currently Igor Terikov, actually showed a piece of a big general a governmental plan of rebuilding Kharkiv after war, which he's doing with the team of some British specialists or something like that. And that's why my question is there any chance to fit your idea about rebuilding the city in this kind of big governmental general plan of rebuilding the city, and how it actually can be helpful?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for the question. I'm also from Kharkiv. I'm not originally from there, but I used to live there for many years. So I do know this city enough and a lot. And this is a unique case. Yeah, it's hard to. It's not like distinct. It's not describing whole Ukrainian situation, I would say, but still a lot of patterns all over Ukraine are crystallized in Kharkiv. So it's not. It's also important to say that I already noticed this is not just ordinary British expert. This is Norman Foster, which is like a star architect, and this is like, it's a big deal actually for Kharkiv. And I do feel that they wanted to do something like this for many years, and they used war as an opportunity to realize it. And this is actually not bad. Yeah, this is actually a natural process. And I actually recently, just yesterday, was listening to Norman Foster presentation at MIT Forum in Boston this fall. It's like on YouTube, so you can find it. He was talking about this master plan for Kharkiv, and I mean, Norman Foster is he's an experienced, I don't know, good, well architect, which like you can't doubt or question his expertise. I don't want to do this. It's more about that. And his approaches are very, very relevant, and like everything which we're talking today about. At the same time, I do feel that their approach to Kharkiv is outdated itself. Yeah, because master plan as a tool is outdated tool. And that's why, this is general plan, how we call it in Ukraine. So the tools they use are not relevant to the situation already. So it's not about what they want to do in Kharkiv. It's about like how they approach the question itself. So I do feel that even though the situation in Kharkiv is unique because of the existing pre-war architecture community, quite strong one in Kharkiv, it is playing a role in this process of master plan development now. And this is unique. Yeah, it's not everywhere happening like this. Architects and designers are involved in this process, but in Kharkiv, unexpectedly, but it's happening. Yeah, because a local administration, even they do like to centralize everything around them, they did understand that they can't deal with international community without local architects, because they won't talk in the same language. So they introduced this local architects group as a consultant for this process, and they integrated their visions in the general master plan as well. And this already happened, and this is good, so it means that even though it's hard, as you're saying, it's hard to add something to the master plan when it's already done, or in general, the process of these giant projects, it's hard to imagine how me with my small project can be there. But at the same time, there was already, and there is still this like group through which probably small projects could be embedded in big one, in big picture, But at the same time, I do feel that we still have time to do this. I don't want to disencourage you here, because we all understand that master plans which are doing still when the war is happening, they will be edited after we will have like a post-war situation. So I do feel that there are still a lot of chances to be there. So don't be afraid of big plans. They will be changed 100 times.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I can see that we have Kasia.
Actually partly answered already my question, because I wanted to ask about the more general dynamics between the actors and the let's say the rebuilding process. So we see this strong influence from the forces from outside of the country, and the question is, of course, because it's also so dynamic, it will change many times. But I was wondering what your perception, and how do you think it will evolve? Will this external force will be somehow, let's say, put together by the Ukrainian, I don't know, official institutions, individual actors? So how do you think that this process is going to evolve between all these, let's say, actors, elements?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question. In general, yeah, this is a big field for discussion. Do we need what to do with external actors? Yeah, in general, everyone, because now Danish government is coming to Mykolaiv and already they're helping with rebuilding infrastructure, especially water infrastructure, because the city suffers without drinking water. Polish government is coming to other cities, yeah, and helping, and all these governments and UN and UNICEF and like many organizations are like there and will be there more. And in general, yeah, international aid in conflicts, it's a huge big field where like critique is there, yeah, and still probably like a lot of questions here about how they behave themselves in the conflict zones. But at the same time, I do feel that Ukraine is a bit unique situation, because we maybe sometimes that's why major big institutions like World Bank and UN are still actually, and USAID, they're still actually not so responsive for now, because I feel that they don't understand a bit what is still happening in terms of like how to approach Ukraine. Yeah, because Ukraine is quite well developed European country. Yeah, it's not like you don't need to come and like have tents there, yeah, like help with basic needs. You need like to embrace local experience more than to come with your experience. So this is probably the case with Ukraine. But if talk about design community, yeah, and about our design professionals, I do feel that we are already ready to be equal at least on the European level. And unfortunately, probably we're still not there represented so much, but it's because it's hard yet to do it in a 1 year term. It's hard to understand what actually happening. It's hard to reflect. We're still living the war and we still like deal with this stress in parallel reality. So I do feel that we already need to be more represented outside, not only in taking everybody inside, yeah, but we do need to more go outside and talk about our experience, because I do believe in from at the last economic forum in Davos, it was a Ukrainian house like part, yeah, we were like some discussions and about spatial development was happening as well, and there were a panel discussion with a few mayors like of Mykolaiv, Zhytomyr, Slavutych, and Lviv, and when they were talking there, I've noticed that even they do have unique experience of working with emergency situations in urban built environment. They don't value it enough, yeah, and they still like say like, oh, but we need help, like they are there at Davos because they want help, yeah, because they want like resources. This is normal, but at the same time I feel that maybe the first step in this process is actually to realize your expertise and to to understand your ability, understand your unique knowledge, yeah, and then to share it. So basically, but it is a process, yeah, and reflection is a big process, and like interpretation of what happened is hard. So maybe we will see more such development of local expertise at some point, I hope. And this year, if especially it won't be so critical and devastating, you know, it can help people to set aside some time to reflect.